Shalom, 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 shalom. I want to give all praise, honor, glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Kwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who teach and rule well. Peace and salutation to the whole elect scattered abroad that's out here doing this work in truth and sincerity. Honor Brother Bach, coming at you with another lesson. Lord willing, this lesson is edifying to the hopeful elect. The title of this lesson will be "The Lord's Men Will Be Glorified and Rewarded." The Lord's men will be glorified and rewarded, man. You know, just like when we get that crown, man, you know, for being a faithful servant. You know, it's going to be beautiful. This is Romans chapter 8 and verse 30. It says, "Moreover, whom he did predestinate, them he also called, and whom he called, them he also justified, and whom he justified, them he also glorified." Right, man? You know, the true men of the Lord were already chosen, man. You know, this was predestinated by the Lord, man. You know, you can't choose who gonna make it and who not gonna make it, man. You know, the story is already written, man. You know, we just playing it out, living it out, man. You know, you got people who are predestinated to come into the truth, you know, and predestinated to get kicked out of the truth, man. You know, everything happens for a reason, man. You know, it's not a damn coincidence, man, that things happen the way they do, man, because everything was predestinated by the Lord, man. The Lord has already wrote the ending. Bringing it back, it says, "And whom he called, them he also justified, and whom he justified, them he also glorified," man. You know, the Lord glorifies his men. The Lord justifies his men, you know, because their sins are already forgiven, man. You know, and the true men of the Lord made that sacrifice, man. Sacrifice their lives on this side, man. You know, we are men of the Lord first and foremost, man. You know, that should be our manly duty, man, and our main priority, man. To hell with this place. You know, nothing but great death and destruction will come to this place, man. I'm gonna go to the book of Second Thessalonians, chapter 1. This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 1 and verse 10. It says, "When he shall come to be glorified in his saints, and to be admired in all them that believe, because our testimony among you was believed in that day," man. You know, brothers got all kind of testimonies, man. You know, it's good to hear, you know, when you around brothers, man, they tell you stories about how they found the truth, man, or how they came into the truth. You know, because brothers come from all walks of life, man. You know, and I was thinking about it the other day, man. You know, brothers gonna have, you know, movies, man, of their past lives, you know, completing the work of the Lord, man. You know, and we pray, you know, we be of that hopeful number, man, that elect, man. You know, we call ourselves the hopeful elect, man. You know, nobody knows who they are, you know, but we strive to be there, man. You know, for that ultimate reward, man. I'm gonna bring it back in the NLT. It's, 2 Thessalonians chapter 1 and verse 10. It says, "When he comes on that day, He will receive glory from his holy people, praise from all who believe. And this includes you, for you believed what we told you about him, about Yahushua, man. You know, only the true believers understand this, man. You know, when the Lord comes back, every knee shall bow, man. It's like, yeah. Go to the book of Matthew. Matthew chapter 10. This is Matthew chapter 10 and verse 39. It says, he that findeth his life shall lose it, and he that loseth his life for my sake shall find it, man. You know, we give up everything on this side, man. You know, to hell with this place. You know, to hell with, you know, being on top in this so-called society, man, because you really never on top. You know, no matter how much money you got, man. You see these celebrities, you know, and how much money they have, and you see how they still get treated like shit from the police, man, and they can't do shit about it. You know, you see you seen the incident that happened with Tyler. You know, they had this man, you know, in handcuffs. You know, he was so-called celebrity. You know, at the end of the day, man, no matter how much money you make, man, we are at the bottom right now, man. You know, but he that lose his life for my sake shall find it, man. You know, it's finding our way in the truth, man. Let go of the earthly things, man. Trying to make it, you know, trying to be rappers, you know, ball players, you know. I got a story, man. I was really good at baseball, man. You know, not bragging, and I was really good at baseball, man. You know, and I was getting looked at by scouts, man. You know, and by the time my senior year, man, you know, all my abilities, like all my abilities, were taken away or decreased, you know, substantially, man. You know, I could barely throw the ball. You know, I still could hit a little bit, man, but ultimately, you know, I end up not playing anymore. Well, I stopped playing in high school. You know, I let it go, man. You know, and I believe, you know, that if I had took that path, man, I wouldn't have found the truth. You know, but the Lord had a greater calling for me, man. Just like he do for you brothers, man. You know, some of you brothers could have made it. Some brothers could have made it rapping or playing basketball, man. You know, you see brothers with these beautiful talents, man. You know, but they put that on the back burner for Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai, man. You know, and that's what we all should be doing. Verse 40, it says, he that receiveth you receiveth me, and he that receiveth me receiveth him that sent me. He that receiveth a prophet in the name of a prophet shall receive a prophet's reward. And he that received a righteous man in the name of a righteous man shall receive a righteous man reward, man. You know, the Lord is going to reward us, man. We're going to get that ultimate reward, man. You know, we never going to die, man. We're going to rule nations. You know, it's never going to be a bad time in the kingdom, man. You know, you're never going to have to cry again. You know, our people are never going to be in poverty again. You know, you see these other countries, man, how they live. You know, over there in Cuba, man, they got damn hay houses and shit, man. They got hay roofs. You know, hot as hell over there. You know, don't even have a damn door on the house. You know, but in the kingdom, all our people are gonna be good, man. I'm gonna go to the book of actually, I'm gonna stay in the book of Matthew. I'm gonna go to chapter 5. I'm gonna go to verse. This is Matthew chapter 5 and verse 10. It says, "Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is in the kingdom of heaven," man. You know, because brothers are gonna be persecuted, man. You know, but our mind is on that crown, man. You know, that's our main goal, man. No matter what we going through on this side, you know, we know what we have waiting for us in the kingdom, man. You know, you're going to be surrounded by brothers, man, getting your crown, man, cheering you on. That's going to be a beautiful day, man, for the men of the Lord. You know? I'm going to go to the book of Matthew, chapter 13. This is Matthew chapter 13, verse 16. It says, "But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For verily I say unto you that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see these things which ye see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which ye hear, and have not heard them." You know, you got all these men, you know, that came into the truth and fell out, and you also got, you know, men that take the truth for granted, man. You know, knowing what we know, if the whole world knew about this, they'll be killing people to be in your spot, man. You know, you can't take this truth for granted, man. You know, it's just like the NFL, man. You got to keep working hard so nobody takes your spot, man. You know, the Lord will put your light out and go get somebody else, man, if you ain't taking this truth serious, man. You know, if people knew we knew they would kill to be in our position, man. You know, we got to be humble and keep working, man. You know, because even though, you know, you got, you know, good people, you know, they don't know the secrets. They don't know the truth, man. You know, you can't take this truth for granted, man. But that's pretty much all in this lesson. Lord willing, you are edified. Until next video. Shalom.